Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Learn with Jason. Today on the show, we have, I'm going to get this right, Natalia Tepluhina. Did I get it right?
Yeah, yes, this was
Yes.
almost right.
Oh, as close as I'm ever going to get. Okay, so I am super excited to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being on here because we are going to talk about some really, really fun stuff, which we'll get to in a second. Because first, I want to talk about you. For those of us who are not familiar with you and your work, do you want to give us a little bit of a background?
Of course. So my name is Natalia, and my last name is Tepluhina, so Jason was almost correct on this. And I'm a Vue.js core team member. I care mostly about Vue documentation. So if you are reading Vue 3 docs, this is like part of my work together with the Vue docs team. And like on my everyday life, so like I have like full-time job, so working for GitLab. I'm a staff front-end engineer working for GitLab by day, contributing to Vue by night, which is like normal open source development, I think.
Yeah. Like a true superhero. Developer by day, developer by night.
Open source by day, open source by night.
Definitely. Well, yeah. So I'm really excited today because we're going to talk about something that I feel like I know reasonably well, which is GraphQL. But then we're going to talk about something that I don't know at all, which is Vue. And so I've done an episode with like Divya Taktachian came on the show and we looked at Vue. I've had Gift Egwenu on the show and Shirley Wu on the show, and we've talked about Vue. But I haven't really managed to learn Vue. I've managed to like put things together to make Vue apps work, but not to actually understand, right? So I'm really excited to dig into this. But we're specifically talking about Vue 3 and Apollo Client 3, both of which are pretty like fresh, right? And so what, in your opinion, what's the most exciting thing about Vue 3? Like why are you excited about it?
A few things. First of all, as a person who works on enterprise application by day, I would say performance. Because Vue 3 gives us a free performance boost without refactoring our components to functional ones. It's like great thing because we have performance issues and this is going to solve them. Second is not for my everyday work, but for a person, for me myself, because I had an extensive experience with Angular. I like TypeScript. I have a Stockholm syndrome. I'm sorry. So Vue 3 is written with TypeScript and it gives you TypeScript support right from the box. And it's really great because everything is typed without explicitly writing typings, which is
Nice.
amazing. And third part, we will be slightly touching it today, is a composition API. For React people, this is something similar to hooks, which is not hooks, but similar to them. This is a way to abstract logic nicely and to reuse it nicely as well in a functional style. So
Okay.
it's for Vue, it's kind of new thing because previously you could abstract logic on component level. You could create mixins. This is a moment of pain for everyone who used mixins. And you could work with renderless components. But right now, we also have a functional way to abstract logic I'm really happy about.
Very cool. Very, very cool. And then when we're talking about GraphQL, so I found that like what I like about GraphQL is I'm really fond of the discoverability of it, right? I like that if I've built a GraphQL API, I can send it to my coworkers and say, here's the API, and I don't have to write a bunch of documentation or send them, detailed specs of what it's going to look like. They can just look at the playground and kind of figure out how things work. That to me is always kind of one of the biggest benefits. I'm curious if there's anything that you find like specifically exciting about it that makes you want to work with this pattern.
So first of all, as you told, it's discoverability. Second one is basically what you ask for is what you get.
Mm-hmm.
And this is very important if you work with huge structures of data, let's say repository. And like a small example, not from GitLab, from GitHub version 3 API, which was REST API. Imagine I want to fetch a list of repositories of a certain organization. And I want to know what languages were used on every repository and how many forks does repository have.
Mm-hmm.
So first step, I fetch a list of repositories. First, REST API call. Every single repository is a huge list. It's like basically 200 properties on every repository object. Do you think I get languages there? No, I have a link. I have a link to like languages page. Do you think I have forks? No, I have a link to forks. So now I'm iterating over all the repositories, and for every single repo, I make 2 REST API calls. One for forks, second for languages.
And that's per repository. So if you query 100 repositories, you're making 300, or no, you're making 201 REST API
201, calls. Yes, exactly. Sometimes you need to make them recursively because they're paginated. Enjoy. And then what if I want to do this with GraphQL? I just use GitHub version 4 API, which is GraphQL API, and I fetch a list of repositories with only 2 fields: forks number, forks count, and languages. That's it. 1 API call, no overfetching, not like all the data I don't need at all.
Yeah.
Easy.
That is super exciting. It's something that I'm really, really into as a general practice, right? Is like only deal with the things that you want to deal with and not the things that are, like we just only want the data that we actually need, right? Like there's no benefit to pulling in megabytes of data if it's all just going to get trashed when we're done building the page.
Imagine if you're on mobile and you have like a low connectivity.
Mm-hmm. And like when you're talking about static site generators, which is something that I talk about a lot, one of the things that happens is when you make API calls, that data, that API result is going to get embedded in the page. So if you are using a traditional REST API and you're putting this data into a static site generator, you're actually including the full result of your API calls into the generated JSON for that page with Gatsby or Nuxt or Next or any of these exported sites. So if you are overfetching, that isn't something that gets abstracted away by static site generators. You're going to send all that data down. So GraphQL is going to give you the ability to solve these problems. But yeah, so I know there's a lot we want to do today, and I want to make sure we've got plenty of time to do it. So let's switch over to working on some code. Before we do that, let's take a second to thank our sponsors. We've got live captioning going today. I still haven't figured out why my site has betrayed me and won't show me the embedded captioning, but it's at streamtext.net, which I've just pasted a link in the chat. You can see live captioning happening right now. This is made possible through the generous contributions of Sanity, Auth0, Netlify, and Fauna, who all pitch in to make this show more accessible to more people. And I just realized that I've got double chat boxes going on. I fixed part of my overlays, and it caused other issues. So we're slowly but surely, this stream is going to get dependable again, I swear. In addition to live captioning, make sure that you check out Natalia's Twitter. Go follow her. And my site has become self-aware. Yes, that is that is correct. But yeah, go follow Natalia. It is a nonstop stream of great insights and a lot of things. And also, if you are feeling generous today, I am currently matching up to $2,000 in donations to Black Girls Code. So if you are looking for a tax-deductible donation to make, go make it today, and you can double the impact of that. Just post send me a tweet with your receipt, and I'll match it up to $2,000 US. Okay, so we have Vue, and I went to v3.vuejs.org. And then I'm also looking at the Apollo client here. Is this the right page?
Yes, I think this is the right page, and we will be also using Vue Apollo, which is an integration, but don't go to their website straight. Use V4 Vue Apollo. Let me just find the link. v4.apollo.vuejs.org.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, this one.
All right. So these are the tools that we're going to be working with today. And we started a live share. So I have an empty folder here, and we can see that Natalia's in here.
Yep.
I'm going to remove this one file, and then I think we can just get started, right? So if I want to get started, what's the first thing that I should do?
Let's create a project with Vue CLI, and I hope Jason has Vue CLI installed, because if he,
It did
awesome. So we will create a project, and
Okay.
right now Vue CLI, you type Vue create,
Okay.
and if you have a folder already created, you can just have a dot here,
Okay.
and that's enough, I think.
Okay. Here we go.
So yes,
Generate
we're
project.
going to yep, exactly.
Excellent.
No, we will manually select features.
Manually select. Okay.
Yes, we don't need linter. Screw linters. I'm just using preterm global, but this is fine. We don't need any CSS processors. We won't be doing any, but we will be choosing Vue version. Babel is fine. Let's leave Babel where it is.
Okay.
So, okay, we are ready.
Enter.
Like enter. Yes, we are going to use Vue 3. It's
Okay.
not a preview anymore. In dedicated config files. No, we don't need it. I mean, you're not working with Vue, shame, but fine. I'm biased.
Okay, so this.
You have, I mean, you have Vue, two Vue core team members at Netlify. No, you're not
We
working
do.
with Vue.
I know.
Yes.
Yeah, we. So Sarah Drasner is a Vue core team member, and then we just hired Ben Hong, which we're super excited about.
So two people writing Vue documentation.
That is. Yep. That is definitely a strong argument in favor of Vue, but they're going to have to fight me and Cassidy over it. So
This sounds like an interesting Netlify challenge. I would say, like, make a fight, and whoever wins gets a framework.
Perfect. Did you see? Did you see when Cassidy and Sarah did the chicken fight?
No.
So
Oh my god.
Cassidy plays this game where you start back to back, and then when somebody says go, you have to act like a chicken, and the first person to laugh loses. And it is really funny. There's a video somewhere that I'm not going to be able to find right now, but if you can find it, it's Sarah and Cassidy having a chicken fight, and it is one of the funnier things that I've seen. It was at a conference. Like maybe JS Conf Hawaii, I think.
Oh my god, I need this.
But okay, so we've got a project. So in here, I can see that we have some Vue, the Babel plugin,
Yes,
the CLI
compilers.
service, and what's this one? Is this single file components?
Yes, it's compiler SFC, but I wonder, like, I can see only node modules. Probably Visual Studio Code is like not loading all the files for me, unfortunately. I can only see them on the Git. It's like, ooh,
Oh,
not that good.
it may have whatever's Git ignored. It may have skipped that. Do you need to see the node modules?
Not really. So what we have here right now is basically a Vue project. And would you mind running it? So we will need, So you will have a serve script. So you run yarn serve will start npm. So you npm fun.
This one is, well,
I see.
It's in either. This one looks like it was set up in Yarn, so we can use whichever. And here is our local site.
Yep.
Beautiful.
It's running for me as well. So beautiful. It's like a very default Vue application, but I'm happy you find our Vue logo beautiful. I mean, I like it as well.
I mean, I think this is what I do like about this is that it actually like takes you places. I feel like a lot of projects make the mistake of their hello world is just like a hello world. And this actually is like, hey, you started a project. Here's where to go next. So props to you and the rest of the docs team.
I think we need to replace like a few links here because they are mostly for Vue 2 ecosystem, but still. And by the way, have you ever noticed that three main, let's call frameworks are RGB? Like Angular is red, React is blue, Vue is green.
I had never noticed that, and that is amazing. But I guess that
Like,
means with our powers combined, we can create the whole rainbow.
it's true. So we have a project, everything is great, and let's start our definitely great challenge
Yes.
with trying to install Apollo client. So, small spoiler, while Vue 3 is released, as well as Apollo Client 3 is released, both are still catching up with their ecosystems, which means that all the integrations are way behind. So what we're going to do right now to make things work is we will be installing Vue Apollo, which works perfectly with Vue 2, but we need to do some really hacky work on it to make it work with Vue 3. So bear with me. So first of all, we have Vue application. Let's not think about Vue Apollo. Let's install Apollo client.
Okay.
So let's go to Apollo documentation. I think you have it open. I can do the same if you want, but it's up to you.
Okay, so we've got our documentation here. Explore docs.
Yeah, it has an installation part. Get started, I guess. It's
okay.
And there is npm install Apollo client and GraphQL. Yes.
Okay. And since we have a yarn lock, I will use yarn instead. I'm gonna try to remember to use yarn. I've been I feel like every month I change which one I use. I'm like, oh yeah, yarn is better because of monorepos, and then I'm like, oh, monorepos make my life hard. I'm gonna use only npm, and then it's just back and forth and back and forth.
Okay, so we have Apollo client installed.
Yes. Here it is.
Now, my internet connection is unstable. Probably Visual Studio Code is eating all the connection possible. So let's go to main.js and let's start with creating our Apollo client. For now, let's forget about any kind of Vue integration. We just want to create a client, and we just want to make a first query with a very simple promise, no smart queries, no magic at all.
Okay.
So let's import two things from Apollo client, which is actually Apollo client, and creating in-memory cache.
Okay.
And let's start working on the client. Don't you mind me typing, because it depends, if you're fine with this.
No, go ahead. This is great.
So let's create default client. And this will be a new Apollo client instance. And here we need to specify two things in our application. First is the URL of the GraphQL server. And please let me know if you have GraphQL server running locally.
Let me check. I think I started it. Let me make sure.
I mean, it should be on localhost 3000 if it's running.
It really doesn't like this. So is this on Vue 2 by chance? Do I need to install the old?
No, it's just Apollo client, so it's it doesn't care about any kind of framework. It's just Apollo server. If it's not running, it's fine. We will use any kind of free API.
Okay. That's so weird because I have it.
Okay, no worries. I will use Rick and Morty API for now.
Unexpected
error.
Oh, weird. I'm getting a yarn.
I know, because...
What?
What is saying? Because for me it's really very blurry, so I'm trying to recognize it.
Sorry, it's saying that the yarn package flat map stream is 404ing. Like that package is missing or something? I wonder if it exists on NPM.
Meanwhile, I will try to create a link. So we need to specify the URL, and I will be using free Rick and Morty API with the GraphQL. They have REST API and GraphQL API. So if you're about to compare, this is really great thing.
Yeah, it's a wonderful.
And let's create also a cache, which will be new in-memory cache. if I'm correct, should be fine. Like, I'm like checking the docs on the background because if I'm correct, yeah, it's correct.
I'm the same way. Okay.
So let me share a link with you to the Rick and Morty GraphQL API. So we will be able to check the playground and show how it works.
Let's see, I just copied your link from the code. So here's
okay.
All right. So in here, we can look, and this is what we were talking about when we were talking about the API being discoverable, right? Is that if we come in here, there's a docs over here where we can see everything, or my favorite shortcut, if you hit Control Space, it'll just pop up all of the available things. So if we want to get a list of characters, then we can look in here and let's see, we'll get some results, and then let's just get the name, and we get
let's just get the name of the character.
It's beautiful. And look, we only got the name, but if we want something else, we can get that too. And this is what Natalia was talking about when she said that you only get the data you need. You're not overfetching. You're not loading a bunch of stuff that's going to just remain unused. And as you get into APIs that have tons and tons and tons of data, you can imagine like how much of an impact this will make on the size of the data that you're sending down.
Exactly. So let's try to use this query in our application. Let's just copy paste whatever you created for characters from the GraphQL playground. I mean, it's not graphical, it's Prisma, right? It's Prisma playground. Because they use Prisma.
Mm-hmm.
But still, it's like, let's call it playground because it is. So let's create the first query here. Yep. And here we will need to use a GQL, right? Because we need to use a templater.
And that's going to come out of the client, right?
I think it's from GraphQL tag. Let me just import it here. So it will be import GQL from GraphQL tag, I guess. I'm just not sure if it's default import or it's named import. So let's quickly checking the documentation here as well. And they have it. By the way, you were correct. They have it in client 3.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
It's embedded. It's embedded right now. I got used to Apollo client 2. So
but I feel like that was kind of one of the major pain points of Apollo Client 2 is that everything was so modular that it was like you needed 15 packages to use the client.
Yes.
And so this is kind of nice that they took that feedback and brought it all back together for V3.
Exactly, because you were installing, I think, like 10 different packages. Like Apollo, previously, even the state management was separate. It was Apollo Link State.
Mm-hmm.
So now we can work with our client because we have default client and we have a query. So let's make first call. So we will be using default client query. And here we need to specify the query, actually. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we need to like resolve our promise. So let's just console log it. We have the response. And let's do my favorite stuff is like, I always have this joke at conferences because like if you're a Google developer expert, you get to really know Chrome developer tools. And for me, it's like using console all the time and debugging with console log and enjoying console log everything, explaining with console logs. I'm a kind of a console log developer advocate.
I feel very much the same. People continually show me how to use the debugger, and I'm always blown away by how powerful it is, and then I never use it.
And then like, let's go back to console log. Because I can console log everything.
Okay, so I'm starting this up, and that should give us a
list of characters. Yeah.
Oh wait, something went wrong. The dependency was not found. We're missing.
Yeah, and I get what dependency is it.
React.
So now it's the best moment. Like that's why I'm on this stream. We got to install React into the application. Do it.
Okay, so I'm going to yarn add React.
And don't ask why, because when I discovered this, my main question is like, Apollo, why? Why are you so cruel to me? Why you make me install in React to your app? But like, probably they will change it to be peer dependency at some point.
Sure.
I guess so. But so far, it's very funny. You get to install React. But we have an application running.
We have an application running, and
let's check the console.
Okay, so we need to parse it as JSON, but we got a response.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we let's see. So we can just take this here and we will add one extra log where we can do res JSON. And now we should see our actual characters here, I think. Maybe.
Maybe.
Ooh, it's not. It's not a response. What did I get wrong?
Let me check the code.
Response type cores, body. It's a readable stream. Huh.
I mean, the main thing here, we got a response. We're not going to use it.
Sure. Okay.
We will be
fair
using.
Enough.
So it's fine. I mean, we were correct. We are hitting the API. We are getting to 100. We are happy.
In a related note, I was able to get the local API running.
Okay.
And so now we have a list of wines. So let's take a look at this.
And this list of wines is really ugly because I think I was adding like some test wines. So I'm sorry for this. I screwed the list of perfect Hungarian wines.
Oh, this is great. This is a great list because we have, we've got a bunch of wines here. And if I let's add a description and maybe a variety.
Right.
Beautiful.
Yeah, lots of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. And then the reason that we wanted to use this one is that this adds something new, which is mutations.
And subscription, but we'll see how it goes.
Oh wow, subscriptions. All right, let's get serious in here. Okay, so now if we want to, we can pull in data from our from our own API. So if I drop this one in instead, and we do this, let's see if this one works for us. I guess I can prefix with query just for the sake of clarity.
Yeah.
And then if I come out here, it doesn't like our response.body for some reason. Like, does it need to be like that?
No, if you remove yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why it doesn't like our...
Try to remove JSON at all and we'll see how it goes.
Oh, here it is. Okay, so GraphQL is doing the JSON parsing for us. So here's our list of wines. Okay,
awesome.
Perfect.
So we have all wines, we have it fetched. Now let's try to kind of make Vue and Apollo client friends.
Yes.
Which is not that easy. So we will be working with Vue Apollo as an integration. And for this, we will go to Vue Apollo installation part. We will skip all the Vue CLI 3 project. We will skip everything and so on. So what we want to add here.
Oh wait, what did I miss? Installation part. Got it. So.
Yep. But don't even try to like Vue add Apollo. No, because this is for Vue CLI 3 project and it will try to install and fail. Trust me.
Okay.
So the only thing we need to really install right now is yarn add Vue Apollo, but we will be using very particular Vue Apollo. So if we scroll down a bit, I'm just trying to find the correct place there, because if you're going to use this documentation, it's a bit outdated. It's exactly for Vue 2.
Okay.
So all the Apollo boost, as you can see, it's Apollo client 2 as well. Yep. So we have Apollo client installed, and you can click on next steps, and you will see that there are 3 different APIs for Vue Apollo. Like option, a classic API. Really need a meme with a smoking cat. It's like, ha ha ha, classic. No, we're not going to use classic API.
Okay.
we will go with composition API.
Okay.
So we can click on the composition API, and you will see like npm install Vue Apollo composable. So we are going to install this, and we are going to use yarn.
Okay. Yarn add Vue Apollo composable.
Composable, yeah.
Okay. So now we
and
have.
Now there will be some magic.
Okay.
Doing this, and let's start. We will have errors. No worries. This is expected.
Okay.
So what we are going to do here, again, this is the code you would need from Vue 2. For Vue 3, we will still need to import the default Apollo client from Apollo composable. So let me do this for us.
Okay.
And you can see that the syntax here is slightly different from what you can see on the documentation. There is no more new view, and the render looks different as well. And you may ask, like, what is going on here? So Vue 3, we changed the way to bootstrap a Vue application. Right now, we're not creating a Vue instance. We are creating a new app, and we are mounting it.
Okay.
That's why we will need to change the syntax respectively for our application as well. So bear with me. First of all, we will be using setup provide. It's kind of the same. So this part is not changed that much. The only difference here, let me just quickly go back to the code. So the only difference here, oh wow, wait a second.
Did it
my
freeze
live
on you?
share, yeah, it's like my live share for a moment gave me like total freeze. So we will be doing the same with the setup.
Okay.
So here on the create app, we're going to have a setup function, which is instead of app, we will be using an object. So here we are defining a root component instance.
Okay.
Previously it was app because we imported it from here. So right now we are going to use the same, like, oh, it's not formatting for me. So instead of Apollo client, we will be using default client.
And that's the one that we set up here.
Exactly. We just created it here.
Got it.
But here is provide, and in the documentation, it's imported from the composition API. Let me explain this cryptic magic.
Okay.
So the composition Vue composition API is a plugin for Vue 2 to use this new API with old version. So it's kind of like a bridge.
Okay.
Here we have Vue 3. So we don't really need to import it from composition API anymore, but we will need to import provide from Vue. And if you wonder what provide is, what is going on here? If you worked previously with React, provide and inject is kind of similar to React context.
Okay.
You provide something in the root instance of the application, and this default Apollo client will be available in every single component. You don't need to pass it as a prop with all the component chain. You can just simply refer to it and use it whenever you need. And
Nice.
It's also great for dependency injection. So what we're actually doing here is dependency injection.
Makes sense. Okay. I'm following so far. How you feel, chat? You following?
It might be a bit complicated.
I think people are with us here. So this is exciting, right? So and I like that it's being, again, talking about consolidation, like taking feedback and consolidating these APIs so that it's all approachable in one place. This is really nice. So so now that we've got a provider, we are able to provide our the default Apollo client and the default client. And basically what we're saying is we want both of these things to be available in any child component. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. It will be available everywhere. And under the hood, our composition API will be using this as a default client. Previously, you would need to add Apollo client to Vue prototype using Vue use Vue Apollo. But I think, like, for me, it always feels like if you add in something to the prototype, it's a very hacky way. And
Yeah.
it doesn't feel clean to me if you refer to something in the prototype chain. So it's like, okay, now it's a bit better. But we did a provide, but we still need to render something. We actually need to render our app component.
Right.
So we will add also a render function here. And the render function would be, it's just a render. And you can see like benefits of TypeScript. Even though we are not using TypeScript here, it's already like giving us all the signatures, everything what we need here.
I think it's it's showing on your screen but not mine. So let me see what happens when I go to do this.
Okay.
There we go. So I think it might be because I have everything in my VS Code turned off to be less noisy during streams.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
Sorry.
we ran into this last week with Ben Elegwedu, where to get the TypeScript stuff, I had to use my other instance of VS Code that doesn't have everything turned off for streaming. So if you want to see how that works in VS Code, check out that episode. I'll drop a link to it real quick. But yeah, for now you'll just have to trust us that works, because it'll take way too long for me to go and set up a new live share and everything.
It's fine. So we are going to return, and here it will be a small function called h, and here it should be imported. Okay, it's not auto import. So what h is actually creating a virtual DOM node, and it's h just for usability.
Okay.
And we want to render our app. So it looks a bit more, not a bit more, a lot more verbose than it was previously.
Right.
But we want to provide Apollo client. And if you work with Apollo client, it's always like some additional setup. So let's try to run it and give all our console errors.
Okay, so I'm serving, and let's take a look at what happens. Okay, so far, no errors.
Yeah, let's
reloading
open
the page.
Oh, no errors. Nice.
No errors. Okay.
It's like, it's magic. When you're doing live coding, you always have errors. Apparently, Jason doesn't. I know. It's like cheating the system.
Okay, so should we take this this part out, do you think?
Yes, I think we can remove the query safely.
Okay, so we can get rid of that part.
Yeah, let's comment it. So far, so good. I mean, app is rendered. We have no console errors. So let's start working with queries and get our errors back, because we will. I've been experimenting, so it's fine. Let's go. So no, let's not go. Let's first of all allow our Webpack to import GraphQL queries from GQL files.
Okay.
Because you don't want to write a query every single time using GQL. And for this, we need to create a configuration file. Okay. Because in Vue, if you want to work with Webpack and configure Webpack, you would need to create a file called vue.config.js. And you can see even an icon here is kind of like, yeah, VS Code is smart enough to say this is Vue config. And here I'm going to cheat, honestly, because every single time I'm searching for this config, and every single time I'm like finding it back in my old project, so I just copy paste it. And I will explain. So this is basically Webpack config. It's not Vue related at all. Mm-hmm. And we're saying that if you see files with extension GraphQL or GQL, please use GraphQL tag loader them and make them be able to import and use in JS and Vue files. That's it. So we're just creating a new rule for like Vue files. And for this, we're also going to create a new folder. That's how I usually do this. I call it GraphQL. It's very visible. And let's create a new GQL file here. Let's call it all wines.js. app.query.gql. Again, you're completely free in naming GraphQL queries however you prefer, but we came with this name convention where first is the name of the query, then you define if it's query, if it's mutation, if it's fragment, because you can use fragments with GraphQL, or subscription, and then you actually have an extension. I'm not sure it works for everyone, but I think it's useful if you want to see them very descriptive, long names, but descriptive. So Jason, let's copy paste our query for all wines here.
Okay.
So we will be using it.
Just grab this out of here. Okay. I guess we can be descriptive up here.
Yeah, and I think query, and let's give it a name, because I have OCD about this. Apollo DevTools complain at you every single time you use non-named queries.
Okay.
Okay, it's fine. It's named now. Are you happy about it? So now we have this, and let's go to our app.view.
Okay.
And let's try to make the query from the Vue component using Vue Apollo.
Yes, this is the part that I'm really excited about, because this is the part that I feel like this is where the light bulb goes on, right? So before we do this, there's one question in the chat. Would this setup work with Vue? I hope I'm pronouncing the name of that project properly.
Vue, you are absolutely correct. People always name it White when it's Vue. And I have no idea if it's going to work with Vue, because we will be hacking even this one.
Okay.
Even Vue CLI project with Vue Apollo is not ready. I've seen some issues regarding Vue, so I guess it works the same way with Vue. And Vue Apollo is not ready for both.
Okay.
And if you check issues of Vue Apollo repository, there is something like that people refer there. It's not working with Vue, but with this small patch, which is 200 rows, you can make it working. So yeah, it should be fine. So let's go to our app view, and let's add a very new thing. So basically what we have here is a typical Vue single file component.
Yes.
Where we have a template part, a script part, and style part. And we don't care about CSS.
And I think this is one of the things that if you're not familiar with Vue, this is probably the most kind of Vue specific thing that I've seen is this setup. This is something that seems really unique to Vue. And it's something that's incredibly powerful too. I love this idea that as I'm working on my components, that everything lives in the same place, but isn't some kind of very specific syntax. So I personally don't love CSS and JS, right? But I do really love having my styles co-located with the things that are happening on the page. So this approach is really, really nice, where I just get to write regular CSS, but it's in the same page. And so I think this is a really unique, and this is one of the things that I love most about Vue is this approach to organizing code.
But it's also a bit limiting, because you need to really work on your components not to grow to be incredibly big. Otherwise, you're just scrolling all the time back and forth.
Enough.
So basically, what you have here, what you see here, it's called Options API. It's an old syntax. I shouldn't say old. It's one of the current syntaxes as well. And it's still a default syntax. So what you can have here, for example, is data. And here in data, you usually define any reactive properties you are going to work with. Let's say message. Let's say, hello, Jason. And you can change it reactively. You can show it here on your template. And there is one of the differences between Vue 2 and Vue 3. In Vue 2, you would need to have only one root node. So I would need to wrap everything in div. Right now, we can work with multiple. And you can just show your reactive data here, for example. So if we go and check our website, there will be a message right below everything. Yeah. And it's shown here. So this is basically Options API. You can have methods here, which are basically methods to change anything, to run, like you have the functions. You can have computed properties, which are getters, mostly getters based on reactivity, and so on. But let's also play with the composition API. So let me first change our familiar data to something new. And this is called setup.
Okay.
Setup is a new option that is present in the composition API. In terms of lifecycle hooks, it's running first before component created. So if I create something in setup, it will be available everywhere in the options API, like data or computed or methods, but I cannot access data from within setup. Our message simply doesn't exist the moment when setup is evaluated. Let's move message here just to show how it works. So for our viewers, it's not that cryptic. I will create const message. And here we will make a reactive property based on the string hello JSON as initial value.
Okay.
For this, so Vue3 is completely 3 shakeable. We will be importing every single method we need here. And here I will be importing ref from Vue. What ref is doing? I will be calling it as a function with hello JSON string. And I will remove this from data for now. What's going on here? Under the hood, ref will convert message string into an object. So I'm just showing how it looks like. This will be an object that contains a single property, value, which will be equal to hello JSON string.
Okay.
You may ask, why? You have a primitive, why convert into an object? Vue3 is built with proxy-based reactivity. And to make all the reactive dependencies tracked with proxy, you need an object, because you're proxifying objects there, not primitive values. That's why any primitive is converted to an object, and this object is tracked reactively.
Got it.
Good thing. Inside of this setup function, if I want to change anything of the message, I would need to use message value.
Okay.
Because this is an object. But here in the template, it's automatically unwrapped for you. Let's return.
And so we just return it?
Yes, we need to return it.
Got it. Okay.
So we are returning it from setup. And right now it's available everywhere in the options API, as well as in our template. So if you check your rendered website right now,
yes.
If I didn't make any kind of mistake, there should be hello JSON string again.
Yeah.
So this is like what we're going to work with. We will be using a few functions from Vue Apollo composition API. So now you know that we need to work within setup.
Okay.
And here we go with a syntax that is more familiar to our React friends. What I'm going to do, I'm going to call a query here. I'm going to use our all-wines query and make an API call from within setup.
Okay.
And for this, I need to import a method. I need to use query from Vue Apollo composable. Why it's not auto-completing for me?
This is probably my this is my setup betraying you. Sorry.
It's like, where is my auto-completion? I'm almost sure I typed it correctly.
Yeah, yes.
I really hope for it. It's like, we cannot cheat with JSON setup. So we have used query here. And now we are going to make an API call. So I want to have some result. And I want to call a GraphQL query. And I need to import my all-wines query GQL. So let's go and import it here. Import all-wines query from, and let's just, oops. So they should be correct.
Okay, so it doesn't like something. Unexpected token. Do I need to restart it after we did the
Yes, because we changed Webpack setup.
Okay, so
So
let's
try to restart it.
stop and restart, and hopefully that'll clear this up for us. There we go. Okay.
Okay, so it's not complaining about the setup anymore, but let's go to our browser and check the console there. I just used query. I just want to see.
Okay. WebSocket connection. Let me just reload here. Okay, here we go. Cannot read property Apollo app tracking of undefined.
Yes, exactly. And this is the problem I hit when I was preparing for the podcast. I was like, yeah, let's just make it work. And like, okay, let's search GitHub issues.
Oh no.
And this, but it's like, we want to make it work. So there is, this one is reported already to Vue Apollo, I think 3 times.
Okay.
And there are pull requests created to fix it. They're just ready to merge and they're waiting for a maintainer to do this. But they're not merged. And I was like, what do we do in this case? And there is a way, like super hacky way. Let's make it work anyway. So what we're going to do here, we will create a node script that will just run and change a few of node modules, actually change Vue Apollo node module with all the fixes that are mentioned on this pull request.
Oh, perfect.
So bear with me. Let's create one more folder here, not on this SRC. Let's just create a new folder right here. Let's name it scripts. So if you are going to share this repository with your viewers, people could easily find it. Let's create a new file. Let's call it patch.js. And I will just copy paste all the things here. Don't even try to dive into it. It's very cryptic. It's just reading. It's basically just reading loading tracking.js and use query.js. And it's changing a few things because Vue Apollo is still compatible with Vue 2. In particular, it's compatible with Composition API plugin. So it uses a few things from old syntax. So it uses $root. And I believe Jason has this in the console. And it's like it's complaining about $root. We are going to replace it with root. So what do we want to do here now? We are going to just run scripts patch.js.
Okay, do I need to run this locally?
Yes, please try, because for me it's like I cannot find this module.
Okay, so I'm going to make this executable.
Yep.
And then I'm going to run scripts patch.js. Permission denied.
Why?
How dare you? Let's see.
I mean, you're the master there.
I know, right? It's my machine. What are you trying to tell me here? Read write. I said to execute. chmod. Oh, did I do -x? I bet I did. +x scripts patch, and then let's just try that again. Syntax error. Oh, we have a bonus. Wait, no, we don't. Line 1, const fs require fs. Unexpected.
Why?
Oh, maybe it. Okay, that ran. I ran it as an actual node script, and
awesome.
Okay, so let's try this again. Oh, you know what it was? If we had put the shebang to identify it as a node script, that would have been different. So I was doing it one way and you had written it a different way. So that's just me not understanding. And so now if I rerun, let me clear this, run again.
Hopefully.
Invariant violation. Expecting a parsed GraphQL document. So actually, I think I know what this one is. I think we forgot to put our all wines query into the use query. Let's try that again. Hey, no errors.
Hey, awesome. Okay, at least it's not breaking. It won't be shown everywhere right now because we didn't return it.
Right.
But if you check the console for GraphQL calls, there should be a GraphQL call for our API.
And we can check
Refresh it because we are running it on components
here?
mounted and check if there are any GraphQL calls.
Here it is.
There is one, right?
Excellent. Okay, so we've got our data. So now let me see if I can do some Vue. I'm going to try something. So
Okay.
if I knowing what I know based on what you did with the setup function, if I want to store my wines as a value, then I would do const wines equals ref, and then I could do result data all wines. And then I could return them like this.
Oh, let's
How close
try
am
it. And try it, and I will say what is wrong here.
Okay, so I'm going to try to use this, and we're just going to see what happens if I try to dump all of this data. And it explodes, and it exploded because cannot read property all wines of undefined.
Exactly.
Oh, because the query has to finish.
Query is finished. But we are not. So first of all, let me say, first of all, result is already a ref because Vue Apollo is doing this for you.
Oh, okay, okay. So I didn't need this then.
Yes. And also, to unpack a result, Vue Apollo has a specific function called use result. I mean, you can use it as it is right now, but the problem is why it complains about data all wines.
Okay.
Because your result is a ref and it has value. This is an object that contains value property. So if you console log result, like let's make console log debugging happening.
Okay, so we'll console log result, and I'm going to reload the page. Oh no, wine does not. Oh, I got to get this out of there. Okay, so here's our ref. Value.
So you can see result is a ref.
Okay. Okay. So if I want to use all wines, I can just like return result like this, or what would be the right way if like I wanted my list of wines?
Yeah, I think my internet is dying again.
Oh no.
Oh,
I thought you were just like unimpressed with my question.
No, it was really nice attempt. I'm sorry for my face expression. It was internet. Don't blame me. So you're already on a good track. But let's use some magic that Apollo client allows us to use. So let's first explain what we're doing here. Because we made a query. Right now we are using query, and people probably think like, okay, it's a promise. The thing here is not a promise. Because Apollo has two different types of queries. First is query, which we used previously. It's just completely like you use fetch or Axios. It's just a promise, you resolve it, you have a result, thanks, bye. But also Apollo has smart query, which creates an observable. And smart query is like you're subscribing to this one, and it's reactive. If result of the query is changing, your application reacts to it.
Okay.
They have their own implementation of observables. I mean, if you worked with RxJS, you've heard about observables. They have their own implementation called Zen observable, if I'm correct.
Okay.
But you don't need to dive into this. You just need to realize that smart query is something reactive, and it's not.
Okay.
So here we have smart query. And for smart query, we can define different options for Apollo client. One of them, with all good Apollo client 2, was update. With update, you could say, I don't need all these huge objects I just fetched. I don't need data, res, whatever. I just want to have all wines. Maybe I want to specify a different name for the property because Apollo client is very picky about this.
Mm-hmm.
If you have all wines property, you need to like have all wines in your response. Otherwise, it's not matching. So in Vue Apollo, we have a similar thing. Let's just simplify this a bit. So we will create a const called, we can say name wines, and we will use result. No auto imports for you, Natalia. Go and edit yourself. It's like such a nice thing. It's like you're a lazy developer. Just use it.
It's amazing, like working on this VS Code setup versus my day-to-day, I realize how much I depend on VS Code to solve my problems for me.
I know, right?
But I like to do it this way because then we have to, like with the automatic stuff, we have to talk through it. Because I feel like otherwise I watch people who are so fast with their autocompletes and stuff, and I'm like, I have no idea what just happened.
And auto imports, they just write in some stuff, we just auto import it for you. Like, whenever this came from, so some cute stuff, but okay, we are going to use a result. So use the result is actually a function to kind of expose the property you want and to define a default value for this. Because what if result is not defined? What if we failed with use query? So we are unpacking result here. And just in case, you can always alias is with something more intuitive here. But for now, we have result and we're happy about it. We will give it a default property of null. So if something went wrong, at least null is specified as wines. So our Vue application is not complaining at us.
Got it.
Saying like, what the hell is wines? I have no idea. And here we want to expose our data. I think it's
data.allwines.
All wines, right? All wines simply. So now we don't need console log result, and we can return your wines here. Great.
And so then up in the top, when we do this list, theoretically speaking.
Yeah, we're not rendering
look at it go. Hey, we just GraphQL'd in Vue.
Yeah, we hacked it a bit. The thing that we.
But so to maybe dig in a little bit to that hack, the hack is only to implement changes that just haven't been merged yet. So this isn't like doing something that won't be fixed. It's just it's getting a fix in that's not available yet.
Yeah, we're just going a bit ahead of maintainer, and we are just merging this patch ourselves.
Yeah.
And I really like this kind of hacky stuff. I always feel like, I don't know, like super hacker. I just made a thing work. And if it doesn't work and as NPM modules, like I made it. So good thing is we have wines. And we can actually make some Vue magic to render this list in a bit better shape than we do right now.
I would love to see we're that. Just
rendering this stuff. So let's be nice. Let's create a list. Let's use semantic HTML because this is important. So we will create a list. And here we will be iterating through a list of wines. And Vue has a magic directive called v-for, which works exactly like for loop in JavaScript. So we have wine in wines array. And you see that I'm not sure that for you it complains, but for me it does complain. Linter is saying like you need a key. And this is fine because in Vue you need to make the field unique and rendering properly. You need to add a key, which is unique identifier for every single list element. We will say that wine name is fine. I'm not sure you're fetching an ID. Let me just quickly check. Nope, title, not name. Title will work. Title is unique here as well. But I always recommend, like, if you have a chance to fetch an ID, fetch an ID. Let's make it an ID.
And then I can update that. Oh, you already added it. Okay, great.
Yeah, I added. And here, like now it's a task for Jason. Please render wine title for every single list element.
Okay, so we can just add like an H2. We'll go wine.title. Okay.
Amazing.
And then I'm going to get rid of this big JSON dump up here. Look at it go. And then there's one comment in the chat that I do want to address. Orlov, we used a node script to get it to render. So what this node script is doing, to be clear, is that you won't use this once the PRs are merged into the Vue Apollo repo. So what we're doing here is we're just applying a patch. Like we're basically applying a PR to the shipped node modules. Once the pull request is merged, these changes will already be in the code, so we won't have to run the patch. So this is kind of one of those things that, like, in the near future, this patch.js will no longer be necessary. It'll just work because those PRs will be merged.
So we're just using this hack for now because, like, and it's important note, I think, like, Jason, as person who did maintain in open source, knows that if you're an open source maintainer, it's very hard to deal with all the pressure and all the stuff that you need to do. And it's not your work, you're not paid for this. So if you're like, why it's not merged, let's not complain about the maintainer. It will be merged for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because maintainer also is Vue core team member. He has like huge workload on Vue CLI. So far we're using this hack. And remember that you're not obliged to use the latest version of everything. Mm-hmm. We're experimenting here because I really like to explore Vue 3 and Apollo Client 3. It's new for me as well, especially Apollo Client 3. And I'm really happy to like play a bit around it, show it. But usually for production right now, you will be using Apollo Client 2.6 mostly. Mm-hmm. I'm using it as well. I know it. But we're just looking a bit forwards. We're looking into the future and just trying to show how things will look probably in half of the year, hopefully. So we have a query. Everything is good. Now, like, I'm just checking, not that much time left for creating a new wine. Even though it's very tempting to create a new wine and to add it to the list. But let's at least delete some kind of wine, right? We can work on deletion. So for this, we will be using a mutation, obviously.
So if I wanted, like, maybe we can just put, like, get the UI in place, and we can say delete this wine.
Yes.
And so for each one now, there's going to be a delete button.
Yes. And what we need to do here. So obviously in Vue Options API, you would be creating a method, which would be run when you click this button. With Apollo and Vue Composable, we will be using use mutation hook. I shouldn't say hook. It's like, it's so reactive. Vue Apollo Composable use mutation. But if you work with React, Apollo client has, React Apollo client has hook called use mutation. So it's very similar in these terms. So let's import use mutation from Composable. I'm getting to this, like, okay. And we will create a new function here. So when you use mutation, it will expose a method called mutate. So whenever mutation is called, you're mutating something. But honestly, you shouldn't use it with this name in the application, because what if you have 5 mutations and everyone exposes mutate? Let's call it delete wine. Right? And then we are going to use mutation, but we need to create a mutation. So let's go to our API, and this is like JSON work, not mine. Let's go to our Prisma playground.
Okay.
And check what do we have in the field of mutations for deleting a wine.
So I can delete a wine, and it wants an ID.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be...
That's why we were smart. We were fetching an ID.
And then it doesn't return anything when it comes back.
Yeah,
right?
we don't need to return anything. It just deletes one, and it's fine. Because
Okay.
I was lazy when creating Apollo server. It's like delete it and forget about it.
So probably then we want to set this up as a
mutation, as a GQL file.
And do you want to set it up as a variable, right?
Yes, let's show variables. I mean, we have 20 minutes. Let's play with variables.
Okay. So in GraphQL, we have we could just hard code this thing and our ID would be, here. But in JavaScript, we can't like rewrite a GraphQL query. It'll blow up on us. So instead, we use this concept of variables, where we can instead define a variable up here and say what its type is. And so we're saying that this is going to be a variable called ID, and it's going to be a type of ID, which I am matching to the type here of ID. The exclamation point means that it is required. And then I'm able to use that instead. And that means down here, I can set an ID, and we'll make something like that. And this will attempt to delete a wine with ID of 1, 2, 3, 4, which we don't have right now. But if I run this, it'll fail. Or there was a wine called 1, 2, 3, 4, which I just deleted. But either way, we have so this is kind of what's going to happen, right? We get back a true that the deletion was successful, and any wine that we pass with this ID will get dropped out of our configuration. So we can see here are actual wines, and so I'm not going to delete one from here, but we could just take this as the ID and drop it in here, and that would delete this wine. It would stop showing up. But so what I'm going to do instead is let's go into our GraphQL, and I'm going to say delete wine.mutation. GQL.
See, you're getting the naming convention really fast.
It's a good naming convention. It's super clear, right? There are no questions about what's happening in here. And then I guess I will name this as well. So we'll call it delete wine. And that will be our GraphQL file. So then over here, I can import
it, yeah.
Delete wine mutation from...
See, again, you got a naming convention even here. It's so nice to see.
Delete wine mutation.gql. Good.
Now I really honestly want to hire Jason. It's like nice to see such a teammate that gets every kind of naming convention without explaining it.
Ooh, but I spelled it wrong. Okay, there we go. All right.
I mean, this is fine. This we all do.
So this then should put us in pretty good shape. We've got a delete wine. And then can I just return this like straight up?
Of course, you should return this.
Delete wine. So, okay, so this is the part where I don't know enough Vue to know what to do next. So we returned our mutation as a function from setup. And we need to call it whenever we click button. So if I was going to make a guess, I would say that there's probably something like a v on. Ooh, v on. Okay.
Yeah, but for v on, you can use a shortcut, which is just at.
At.
So let me just fix it for you.
Ooh, look at that. Awesome. Okay. All right. And then
you're calling delete wine, right? Because you need to call it.
Really? I can just do that? Like,
yes, but you also need to pass a variable.
Does this work?
Yes, but no. I mean, it works, but you missed something.
Okay, all right. Okay. I thought I was doing so well there for just a second. Okay.
You almost correct here, but let's try to remember how we are passing variables to GraphQL mutation. It should be an object because we are passing an ID. Right. So our ID here is actually wine ID. Yeah, correct.
Okay. So this then theoretically should work.
Let's go and check. What if we fail?
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I can
So
only guess.
our first wine here is this Samuel Tinan. So let's delete it.
And let's check our console and let's check our GraphQL codes. This is important one, right?
Okay. So I should have had this open when we started. So I'm going to, oh wait, it's gone.
Click on delete this wine again right
Okay.
now when you have open.
So I deleted.
It's not gone. You deleted it. It's correct. GraphQL call is successful. You can see this. And if you refresh a page, it's gone. Because if you can refresh a page, there is one very important part missing right now.
Okay, so I just deleted this one. So when I refresh the page, it's gone.
And it will disappear. Yes.
Okay.
So what is going on here and why our wine is not disappearing immediately? There is a thing about Apollo cache. So let's dive into it a bit for people who never used Apollo. Apollo itself is not only a GraphQL client. It's not Axios for GraphQL.
Sure.
Apollo also has a cache. And when we were creating a client on main.js, we specified it as cache in memory cache. You probably have seen this. And what is cache doing? Every single time you fetch something from GraphQL endpoint, it's stored, it's on main.js. It's stored in the Apollo cache. And on any subsequent call, when you're querying absolutely the same query with the same variables, Apollo will first check the cache. So you can think about it as a getter. You have a query. First, it's like, okay, if it's in the cache, cute, you have it in the component. If it's not in the cache, it's going to fetch it from the GraphQL endpoint. That's how Apollo is also capturing the local state of the application. It's possible to store there even things that don't exist on GraphQL API at all. But for us right now, important moment is Apollo is smart. And when you are updating a single entity in the cache, it's smart to check by ID and update it. So if we were updating the wine, changing its name, it would do the refresh for us.
Okay.
The problem here is when we add an entity or delete an entity. Because in this case, we need to explicitly tell, hey, we changed the list. Please update the cache for us.
Gotcha.
That's why Apollo contains also update functions. So when we're specifying any kind of the mutation, any kind of the query mutation like deleting or creating an entity, we can also specify an update hook. And in this case, it's a bit more problematic because we will need to specify this hook in the function on the template. And I'm quickly checking for the syntax. Because again, with Apollo Client 3, I don't know the syntax of update hooks. So I need to go and check. So give me a second to check in documentation. I know we short in time, but let's better do it correct from the start.
Well, maybe we can actually just define the function here, You
mean like delete wine? So
delete and update with an ID, and then we can run.
Yeah, we can run delete wine here as well. Meanwhile, and it's really fun when you coding without knowing if it works or not.
I know.
Usually when you do live coding at the presentations, like at conference talks, you kind of know what is going to happen here.
That's kind of the ethos of Learn with Jason. It's loosely controlled chaos.
But it's so much fun. You can't deny, right?
I mean, every time I do this show, I leave my cheeks hurt from smiling. I've laughed a bunch. So it's one of the highlight of my week is Tuesdays and Thursdays when I get to do the show.
I bet. So, okay, we can define it. Check in Vue Apollo documentation. We can define it on the use mutation, which is good already.
Oh, we can define it in here.
But we can also define it. Quickly checking this one, but we can also define it in the function. Sorry for the silence. I'm just trying to find out like how to operate better with this.
No worries. In fact, I think we can just like do a little bit of music while we wait.
Oh, even so.
I'm so happy that I unbroke my sound effects. They've been broken for like 2 weeks. So this really just warms my heart.
So if we want to define anything on the mutation, like update hook, it's going to the callback function. So it's like this.
Okay.
And we can specify update hook here. It's like update. But I mean, logic is going to be here with like all the reading query and writing query as well.
Do we need to return an object, or is this?
No. We don't need to return. This is not an object. This will be. Let me again quickly check for this. Yeah, we need to return an object. Sorry, it's like because this is a configuration one.
Okay, so should we just do it like a one of these kind of deals?
Yep.
Okay.
So the thing right now, like I'm trying to remember how do we pass an ID here, because what we can have in our brackets in update basically is actually only the store, and which is Apollo cache, and everything that we get as a response. So let's try to play around this. Okay, let me just yeah, exactly. I just realized that sometimes I used update and you could use it externally. So there is a chance we can try to run it in the lead one. So okay, let's try to see. First of all, I will just try to get ID here to see if callback receives an argument. And let's play around update.
Okay.
So what we have here in the update. Update is a function, first of all. And it accepts cache, store, as a first argument. So this is basically our Apollo cache here.
Got it.
And second one is whatever we get from, so here, if we would be returning anything from the API, like some object with ID of the wine we deleted, it should be here. For now, we just don't, yeah.
What if we just update the server to return the ID instead of returning a Boolean?
Do you think that we can do this? Because I'm not sure server will return you an ID. I mean, you want to update the server? Oh, this is 5 minutes.
Yeah, maybe not with 5 minutes. Maybe we don't do that.
It's like it's really nice. So that's what we do here. Let's just try first of all to read. So when you want to update anything in the store, I mean, for the case of the example, let's try to at least show how we read this store and how we change it. If we're not successful with an ID, at least we can show how we operate with the store.
Okay.
So we will have const data, which is store read query, because Apollo cache is operating with queries all the time.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like it uses the query as the unique identifier.
Exactly. So we want to retrieve whatever we fetched as all wines. Query is all wines query.
Okay.
And let's console log it. And check whatever is going on when we delete a wine. Not so many wines left.
So we still have a decent amount of wine left. So let's delete one and see what happens. Okay. Cannot read property ID of undefined.
Oh, yeah.
So this one, it didn't like that. So we can, what if we just get like all data out and see what comes back?
Yeah.
So then we can just kind of like log both of these and see what it gives us when we try to.
I think it will be nothing because we're not passing anything, but let's check.
Okay, so our args are empty, but our
Yeah,
data is the cache. We get all of our wines, and it does include the one that was just deleted.
exactly.
Yeah. So it looks like
It looks like we need to update it
okay.
properly in this case. And okay, I'm just trying to get a few memories of like when you run the delete wine. If we can do it on deleting wine, like with a second parameter here, because this is, so basically this is variables
Okay.
here. And let me quickly check the API again, because I remember that you could pass an update previously here. So maybe we will be able to do this as well. I'm not sure if Guillaume has updated the documentation, because I was complaining about this one. I remember this. Like mutation, updating the cache and cache updates. Yep, this is cute. Message variables. So yeah, you can pass it as a second parameter as well.
Oh,
So
cool.
whatever
Okay.
we have here, we can just copy paste our things and whatever. What have I done? Like, okay, I just copy paste it, and we can delete the second parameter altogether here.
Okay.
And we can pass it here.
Excellent. Okay.
So right now, let's try it. Let's try it again, just without args. No more args for us.
No
Could
more
you please delete
args
a
for
wine
us.
for me?
Okay. Yeah, so I'm now in, here's our app. I'm going to reload the page. I'm going to delete this one, and nothing happened.
Oh, and we are calling delete and update wine. Oh, we are calling delete wine. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so we need to return delete and update cache, and then we'll change this one to be delete and update cache. And then I made this into just the ID gets sent in, so we'll update that. Okay, so let's try this one more time. Here's our data.
Okay.
We got our wines.
So if console log it, so we are almost here. So our update function is running.
Yes.
This is already good, right?
Yes.
So what we are going to do here, and this is a huge thing, I think, and I think Apollo Client 3 will just scold me for this right now, because I'm going to mutate the cache, and this is not how you do this. So it's like const data is, okay, I will try to make it as immutable as possible. This is important thing about Apollo Client 3. You can update cache only in a mutable way.
Okay, do we need to change this to be like updated data?
Yeah, so I'm going to like do this.
Oh, like that. Okay.
It's fine, by the way. Let's create updated data.
Okay.
I'm usually using libraries like Immer if you have deep nested structure. But here we don't have really deep nested structure. We're fine with this. So we will be using data filtered, right?
It's going to be data.allwines.filter, I think.
Oh yeah, it's data allwines, right? Sorry, for me it's 10 p.m. and my brain is already kind of big. So we have a wine, and we want to return everything if ID is not equal to the ID we passed here. So we want to exclude the one with a given ID, and rest of the stuff is fine.
And then do we just need to return?
No, no return.
Oh, sorry.
We need to write it back to the cache.
Okay.
We read data, we changed something, and now we are going to do store, write query. And again, query is the same. We are going to change all wines query here.
Okay.
But we also need to pass data, and data will be our updated data.
Okay.
Let's try it.
I think we have to do all wines, because when we dug down here, we ended up with this updated data ends up being this array.
Yeah.
So yes, that exactly. I think that should get us. And If it doesn't, we might have to, let's see. Come on, fingers crossed, everybody, drum roll. Look at it go. Beautiful.
It complained a bit because we have invariant violation. We need to like, I can treat it, but I guess that is like complaining about the different structure.
Define a custom merge function. Okay. So this would be something that we definitely don't have time for today, but...
And yeah, and it's new for us both, I think, because it's Apollo Client 3, but at least interface is updated.
Yes. And so we managed to get this right. Like this puts us in really good shape. And that, I think, is a great point to call this done. So Natalia, thank you so much for your time today. Remember to go follow Natalia on Twitter. And let's see,
Holy buckets, did that just work?
Hell yeah, it just worked. Okay, so here is your personal website. Is there anywhere else that you want people to go check out?
Vue 3 documentation, please. If you use Vue, if you don't use Vue, it would be really great if you could read through documentation, try Vue.js, and if something is wrong in the docs, because it can happen, please submit an issue because it's the only way we can improve documentation. Absolutely.
Okay, so with that, one more shout out to the sponsors. Thank you, White Coat Captioning, for making this show more accessible to more people. Thank you, Netlify, Fauna, Sanity, and Auth0 for generously sponsoring the show to make that captioning possible. Natalia, thank you so much for spending your time to teach us today. I had an absolute blast. I'm really excited about what's becoming possible with Vue and Apollo. Chat, thanks for hanging out, and make sure you check out the schedule. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming up. Later this week, I have Kapehe coming on the show, and we're going to look at building some static sites with Sanity, and that's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you come check that out. Stay tuned, chat. We're going to raid. Natalia, thank you again. We will see you next time.